Hey guys, I hope you all had a wonderful Christmas. In today's video I wanted to do some narration over a night shoot I did a couple days ago, and so I thought it'd be fitting to also talk about some night photography tips that could help you out. So I hope you guys enjoy. Tip number one is to shoot RAW when possible. By shooting RAW, all the data in your photos are recorded and remain uncompressed, so this allows you more dynamic range to save exposure and to play with in editing. And alongside shooting RAW, try to perfect your settings. This is mostly a personal preference, but I tend to shoot all my night photos in 1/60th of a second shutter with the widest aperture and the highest ISO I can go without getting too much grain. And so for my camera it's around 1600 ISO. A good rule of thumb is to expose to your highlights. Keep your highlights bright but within the dynamic range of your camera, and use a histogram if necessary. But there will be darker portions of your image, but since it's a nice night photography, it's okay. And so it's always good to take some test shots, and so by doing that you can just adjust accordingly to your surroundings. Tip number two is to prioritize light sources. This is true no matter where or when you're photographing, but it becomes much more important when shooting at night. So find yourself a light source that lights up a surrounding area well, and use the fishing technique to wait for something interesting to happen in your frame. Chinatown in London is a great place for night photography because it's filled with multicolored neon lights that you can play with. And patience is key with night photography. Rushing your shots, especially with the low shutter, may result in really blurry images. Tip number three is different time means different situations. So this is going to be a really quick one, but some of the most interesting street photos occur at night, where most people are out. So you'll find it surprising how many more interesting things happen at night than during day. So always try to experiment with time, and yeah, night photography is a really good way to kind of make your photos more versatile, and yeah, it's just fun, so you guys should try it out. Tip number four is blurry and imperfections. So blurry can be good. Shooting at night means shooting at higher ISOs and lower shutter speeds, which results in more picture noise and motion blur, but that isn't necessarily a bad thing. Motion blur adds a more dynamic feel to your image, and with careful choice of lighting and subject, it can really add multiple layers to your images. So embrace the imperfections. Tip number five is tripods. Tripods can become one of your most valuable assets when taking night photos. Long exposure shots is another great way to energize and add layers to a photo. Not only that, but it can drastically remove motion blur if shooting static subjects. And so my last tip for you guys is to always stay safe, especially with COVID, increasing in London. It's always important to wear your mask. But when it comes to night photography, always be prepared for the weather at night. Here in England, the weather becomes really random, so always try to dress warm. Not only that, but always be aware of the ramifications the weather can have to your gear. So if you're struggling with cold batteries, try to put a heat pack in your glove that holds the battery grip. It keeps you and the battery warm. And taking photos with another person is another way to stay safe. Like I said, more interesting things happen at night, but that doesn't exclude all the dangerous things that can happen. So having that support can possibly prevent any confrontations from taking place. So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed, and hopefully you were able to take some things from this. If you have any other questions, please feel free to leave them in the description below. But I'll see you guys in the next one, and take care.